Well, for more on all of these business headlines, we like to bring in John Allison. He is the chairman and CEO of Unio Capital. John, great to have you with us. And John, Amazon, Whole Foods, what do you make of the whole deal?
It's a big blockbuster thing for Amazon because they've been trying for 10 years to get into the grocery business. The grocery business is not a digital business. You have to see the lettuces to buy groceries. So they finally recognize that. They're going to get 500 stores, and it's going to help them in a number of ways. It's going to be a new platform for their products. They're going to take a company that's been badly managed, and they're going to optimize it in various ways. For example, you'll get 2-hour grocery delivery. They're going to reduce prices, so their Amazon prices, not, as you said, whole paycheck prices, and they're going to also increase their prime customers. So for all those reasons, Amazon has actually, I think, made an incredibly smart deal at a good price.
And of course, effects across the supermarket world. Many retailers very nervous about this.
I think they should be. I mean, I think this is really, really a threat.
Blue Apron, speaking of food, you actually have to cook it, though. They send you the ingredients, and then you prepare it at home. I don't get it personally. Yeah. But they have their IPO. In terms of the IPO market, last week we had Snap, the parent company of Snapchat, falling to its IPO price. It did do well today on the news of that Time Warner content deal. But does that Snap IPO not working out so well sort of temper the market for initial public offerings?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, actually, I think the IPOs not being that robust, I mean, it's not a frothy market, is actually a very positive thing. I'd be much more nervous if we had one IPO after another, and particularly if we had flaky IPOs. But the IPOs are generally fairly sensible. There are not that many of them, and Snap proves it. They're not very frothy. So that's, I think, good news, actually, for the market being sensible.
But in terms of the outlook for the IPO market, do you see a pullback? Do you see companies being more reluctant to list now in light of this?
No, I don't think so. I think if companies want to list, they're going to list. I do think, though, that many companies have recognized that there's actually a benefit to being private. Sure. So I don't think they're rushing. You know, Dropbox, as an example, or Uber, or many, many other companies are being more careful about when they come to market because of this contrast between the freedom of being private and the constrictions of being public.
If you have the capital and the fewer regulations, why not? Now, in terms of the tech sector, we did see a bit of a sell-off bouncing back today, but overall, tech is about 17.2% up for the year. As a sector, do you think it's overvalued?
Well, I think tech is selling at Tiffany's prices, not Amazon prices. So I'd say, but you still
Cartier prices.
You still go to Tiffany. You still go to Tiffany's. Look, I think that the tech sector, I would say a couple of things. Number one, as compared with the old .com period, where you had many companies that were empty suit companies, you actually have real companies that are selling at expensive prices. I think the problem is not how super expensive they are. Some are. The problem is distinguishing those tech companies that deliver value to customers and therefore to shareholders, rising value, versus those where it's topping up. For example, Amazon is delivering rising value to customers. Much as it's a great company, I think Apple is topping out in terms of the value it's delivering to customers. So I think the key is to make those distinctions and not overpay for a value proposition that's not that good.
So to look at things individually, not as a group, rather.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, John, it seems that investors responded very favorably to Emmanuel Macron's victory in terms of Parliament. Is he the man that will actually be able to turn France's economy around?
Well, I think Macron represents several things. First of all, Macron equals hope. You know, Europe was about to go down, you know, the tank, and I was on your show when we were talking about that. I was more optimistic than conventional wisdom on Europe. I think finally people are saying, you know, Europe might actually come back. So I think that's important, including the fact that he doesn't just have a French vision, he has a European vision, and he can work with Merkel. And secondly, I think he's a fellow who is trying to, and this is the really big thing, trying to restore entrepreneurialism to France, the home of the word entrepreneur. And yet, you know, the French are not rewarded for being entrepreneurs. They're actually rewarded for not being productive. Indeed. And I think he's trying to change that. And
he's trying to change labor laws and pension plans. He's going to get a lot of pushback from labor unions, even though he may have parliamentary support. Very quickly, John, with North Korea, Defense Secretary Jay Mattis says that is the biggest threat to peace and security. Tensions flaring up in Syria, these terrorist attacks. What, in your opinion, is the biggest macroeconomic risk right now?
So I would divide macro risk into two categories, the shorter-term macros and the longer-term macro risks. The shorter-term are political risk, and you just identified Korea as one big one, because if they launch missiles that can reach the U.S., that's a political risk. The second political risk are things like protectionism. They're insidious and dangerous. The longer-term political risk is debt. We're still accumulating debt. A lot of it's been getting accumulated in government hands, U.S. government hands. But the real worry with debt is that it gets used to fund assets that are not productive when we get back to the kind of low productivity of assets that caused the 2007-9 financial collapse. So that's the longer-term worry. I don't think we're going to get there, but it's certainly something that we watch a lot at our company.
All right, John Allison, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well,